Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Multifamily Hangout. I'm your host, Adrian Danila, with my co-host extraordinaire, Neyda Urias. Welcome to the show. Before we go ahead and introduce our amazing guest today, I do want to give a shout out to our friends from Apartment Snapshot, their revolutionary platform, the first gamified performance and employee engagement tool designed explicitly for multifamily professionals, is transforming the way we approach performance and employee engagement in this industry. They are powering our podcast today, our friends from Apartment Snapshot. We thank them for that, for the partnership. Neyda, take it away.
Thanks, Adrian. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today and introduce our next guest. Candice isn't just a professional, she's a force of nature. Her journey is a tapestry of triumphs, resilience, and exceptional leadership in the multifamily sector. She's not just a player, she's a game changer. Candice has not only excelled in the multifamily industry, but has set new standards for what's possible. Today, we're going to unravel the secrets behind her success, gaining insights into property management trends, workforce development, and the essence of true leadership. Candace isn't just climbing the career ladder, she's also extending a hand to uplift others. Her commitment to advocacy, particularly for young Black women, is inspiring. She's a beacon of inclusivity, working tirelessly to create a more diverse and empowered workforce. Hello, Candace.
Hello, Neyda. And I have to say, that may be the best Candace Manning intro I ever heard. Thank you. I will do my best to live up to that hype.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
We definitely would like to know a little bit about you, a little bit about who's Candace, Candace's journey, and where you're at today.
No, absolutely. I am currently the Director of Workforce Development and Training for the Maryland Multi-Housing Association. Prior to joining that team, I spent 15 years in multifamily in about every role you can think of. Oddly enough, like most of us, I fell into multifamily, moving to Maryland thinking I was going to get a master's degree in human resource development, and I ended up taking a leasing job and falling in love with multifamily and moving up that ladder and kind of spending time in various positions. But it's always funny because I never dreamed that I would end up doing property management. Never knew where I'm from. It's a smaller town and everybody kind of rents row houses if you're renting. So there weren't a bunch of apartment buildings. So I didn't even know this was a thing until I got here to Maryland. So I spent a lot of time in leasing. Spent time in leasing, a leasing manager, resident services coordinator, assistant property manager, multi-site property manager, and also basically at one point was taking a lead on marketing efforts for an entire region. So a little bit about me and how I got here. I guess if I had to summate myself and my career, I'm passionate about people, which is why I love what I do now. I really believe that the power still lies in the people. As corny as that sounds, you can't do anything without people, and you certainly can't be a leader if no one wants to follow you.
Candace, you mentioned people, so we do want to acknowledge our people, right? Those in the audience. We want to thank them for hanging out with us today. At the very beginning, I'd like for all of you to just kind of go to the message box, to the comment box, and type in your name and the location, where you're from, so we know whom we have with us hanging out today. And also, please have some questions ready for Candace. She's ready to take questions from the audience. And again, we thank you for being here with us today. Candace, my first question for you. When you reflect on your multifamily career, what are some key milestones or projects that you're super proud of?
That's actually a great question because I am the girl. I am a rebel. I have to tell you that. So actually, Neyda could probably attest. I was the person who always gets in trouble in a good way. Because I like to think of myself as a visionary, and sometimes I see things that no one else can see until they come to fruition, if that makes sense. So most of my career accomplishments were a result of relationship building. So One of my largest career accomplishments was I was working in downtown Baltimore on a block with 3 buildings. And overall, the city was experiencing vacancy. And it was bad. Our building had vacancy, but so did the 2 other buildings next to us. I had fostered a relationship with the Royal Farms Arena, and it was a crazy deal. And to this day, I don't know if it was a good deal, but essentially we created the second selfie mirror in the nation, and 900,000 people walk through that space annually. And so to raise exposure for the company, we had the selfie mirror in the Royal Farms Arena. Fast forward, I get a call from the public relations director who really took me under her wing, and I'm grateful for the time I spent with her, and says, you need to come to this press conference. And I'm like, okay. And so I go to this press conference, and they're about to bring an arena football league to Baltimore. And she comes up to me at the press conference and says, they're going to need apartments. And very long story short, we were up against the newest competitor in the city. I mean, brand new building. It was in lease up phase, and our buildings weren't brand new. Some of them were built in the 60s, the 80s, and this is 2015 or 16 or 17. Forgive me, it all blurs together. And essentially, through months of work, I was able to foster a relationship with Monumental Sports Entertainment that resulted in running 26 apartment homes and 1 commercial space, and ultimately stabilizing the entire block, which doesn't sound big, but it was kind of a big deal because this is not the type of business that we would typically seek. But you got to get creative when you're in situations. And so initially, the president of the company was not happy with me, but he came around and actually gave me an award for that and ultimately promoted me for that. I would say that was one of my largest accomplishments because I learned the power of reach. Meaning when you have an apartment community and you have 300 people that live there, right? You're reaching 300 plus people. It's not just the number of units in a building. And so I learned how to really leverage the reach that we had on those communities to trade that for larger deals. For example, I may send a bid to Live Nation at one point and say, look, I can reach a total of 100,000 people via our social media channels over 14 communities. If you can give me 6 free tickets to, I'm making this up, a Janet Jackson's show that we can raffle off to residents. For Live Nation, that's grassroots marketing, right? For us, it's a win because it's a retention tool. So learning to think outside the box and fostering those relationships. So of course, the one with Monumental Sports Entertainment was a career highlight for me. That was the big one. The revenue was $250,000 generated, and that would have been apartments that were just vacant. I fostered a relationship with the Royal Farms Arena. I also, when I decided to make a move and handle my first lease up, I was able to create several partnerships with school districts to increase exposure. So I guess my largest career accomplishments were a result of relationships and not just thinking that vacancy is not just a leasing person's job. If you're the property manager and you are struggling with vacancy, we can't just look at the leasing team. Absolutely. Performance-wise, you'll look at the leasing team, but it's important that we start thinking outside the box. The first thing I always say when someone comes to me and says, we don't have traffic, go make some. Get outside, build relationships, hotels. I like to have a building so full that we may need a couple days before that home is ready. So I guess in summation, my career accomplishments would be based on the relationships that generated revenue. And then, this one is different because I've only been in the association space for about 18 months, but the Leasing Training Academy, which launched less than 1 year ago, has officially inked Baltimore. So we are expanding. Yay, thank you. It's actually kind of a big deal because this is something that had never been done before. And we did it with little budget at all. What I think we did well was we were very strategic about using relationships to help promote and build the value in the program. And so we never anticipated that in less than a year, a program that no one heard of would be expanding to another place. So I'm pretty proud of that. I'll be very honest. I haven't had time. The last couple of weeks have been very busy. I haven't had time to actually celebrate it. But I was laying in the bed the other night like, did we do this? Like, did we expand and there's 2 leasing training academies now and we had no money and I had no blueprint. So I'm fairly proud of that.
I love that. I love that. And that's why I say, like, that's something that hasn't really been done. I don't really know of that many associations or organizations that are doing what you're doing. And so that's good stuff. Now, all of those numbers and all of those accomplishments sound great, but I'm sure throughout your career, you've had some challenges. Can you share some of the challenges that really stand out to you?
I have a strong personality. Look, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this, right? And so, even as a child, when you reflect, I've always had a strong personality. And I like to think that I was also a natural leader. I was the person on the playground that people followed and that kind of thing. And with strong personalities, despite your talent, come challenges. And so some of my challenges have been the politics in the workplace and also learning how to adapt my personality to make sure that everyone in the room is comfortable, if that makes sense. Meaning everybody has their stuff, right? We all got some stuff that makes us easy to deal with, harder to deal with, that makes people love us or hate us, etc. But it really takes a level of self-reflection to be able to identify that stuff and kind of weed through it. And so me, little known fact, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I am my mother's only child. And so until I was in my early 20s and went to college, I really kind of thought the world revolved around me and that I should always have a voice. And the reality is that's not what happens in life. So some of my biggest challenges were the fact that I had to learn, A, to embrace humility, B, to meet people where they are. Meaning everybody you're going to hire is not going to be that A player, right? It takes a level of patience to coach people up and get them where you want them to be, but we have to meet them where they're at. And also just how to, I don't want to say ignore, but how to navigate things that are beyond your control. Meaning I always try to ask myself, what role did I play in this? And once I exhaust it from all angles, if I played a role, then I need to be accountable and see what I can do to fix it. If I didn't, then realizing that this is not their problem, maybe it's mine. So I guess you could say that was my biggest overall challenge, and it's still a challenge. Transitioning into the association space is very different than multifamily. Multifamily, it's okay to be a competitive, a driver, let's go, let's move, and why? The association space is a lot softer of an environment. And so over the last 18 months, I've had some great lessons and really have tried to adapt, meaning I'm never going to change who I am. None of us should, right? That's what makes us special. But I do have to learn to work differently with different personality types in order to get the desired outcome. So I started that journey years ago, but that's something that's continuous for me. Outside of that, career challenges, I mean, as an African-American woman, you always deal with some inequity, but I can say that at some point that just becomes expected. And we learn coping skills and code switching, et cetera, that allow us to advance in the workforce. Some of my other challenges too were early in my career. This one is funny. I want to be a marketing person. And so I almost wanted to skip the assistant property manager job if I could. And here's what's funny. I never wanted to be a property manager or an assistant property manager. And the way life works, I ended up spending 5 years as an assistant property manager. And it was the best experience of my life because I wasn't a collections assistant property manager. I was an assistant property manager with a team of 28. I wrote performance appraisals. I wrote budgets. It's like life sometimes will put you where you need to be. So my challenge, and I don't know if this is a good answer, was myself. Getting out of my own way, learning to be open enough to accept the feedback and figure out my stuff because we all have it so that I could be the best I could be. I've always had some gifts that were inherent, meaning I can score well on a test. You give me a task, I'm going to bang it out. I'm highly administrative and bright, but that's not all you need to be successful. Did I answer the question?
Yeah. I think a lot of us can relate to your answer. I know I'm like that too.
Sure answer. Now something else that comes to mind, like an additional question to this. How about failures, right? Everybody talks about, the great stuff that they have going on. When you look at, social media in general, like who says about I fail, I fail, I fail? Occasionally we do. But for the most part, we want to acknowledge our wins, right? Let's talk a little bit about failure, right? And how did failure shape you as a person, as an individual, as a professional? And what were the lessons that, you learned from failure? And how did you overcome failure?
I actually love that question. My first lesson with the power of failure, right? And we're using that not in literal terms, was the fact that I was on a different track way before I started a career. I had a very bright future and I got pregnant, my fault, at an early age. And that was my first large disappointment in life. And I learned a lesson from it. Like, okay, wow, I have to be adaptable. I have to be flexible. Here I am, this college-bound student. We already know where I'm going to college. And now I have this life to take care of. And even though it ended up being the best gift ever, at the time, I felt like I failed everyone around me. And it left me feeling a little empty. I was able to use that as a driver to push me forward. In my career, I have had many fails, a lot of fails. In fact, I look back in my second management position. And of course, I always throw up the quotes because I don't really believe you manage people. You can only manage tasks. You can only aim to inspire people, right? But I was a leasing manager. And like most people, I got promoted because I had a good skill set, right? I could outsell anybody, high numbers, all that fun stuff. But I was horrible to the people. I was such a driver that I didn't work with the people. I remember going to a leasing professional whose desk was atrocious all the time. And I kept asking her to clean her desk. And one day she came in and I had just put all her stuff in a crate. That's really bad. So I look back and I feel like even though we pushed the number, I failed my team. And my beliefs now that people are more important than all of that make me reflect on things like that. Like, wow, I can't believe that I was that kind of leader. Additionally, I think that I also had some good lessons when I got my first property. When I got my first property manager position, I was so excited. And the company we worked for, the property managers were really the end all be all. And so I had a lot. I've never been that empowered in my life. And until I launch on my own, I won't be again, put it that way. And so I came in very strong, not meaning to, because I was so ambitious, putting my want to succeed before the team. And out of 15 people, I turned over 7 within 12 months. And I don't say that in a good way. That was a fail. Did some of them need to go? Yes. Should I have been more patient to get to that outcome and tried to coach more? Yes. Absolutely. I've also made some poor choices because you can't tell now because I try to be polished now. See, polished, right? But I'm very fiery because I'm passionate. And so there have been instances where maybe I didn't like what was said. And Candace today would be quiet. Fiery Candace will fire off. Meaning, even if I say it professionally, every action doesn't warrant a response. And so there have been some times where I have given email responses or even in-person responses that probably did not help propel me in my career. So a lot of fails. Performance fails, I've been somewhat lucky. I don't believe in that. Meaning if I have a goal, I achieve it. I've had some small, I guess you could call them fails, but I still won because I took what I learned from that and just made it better. So my fails are more, again, on the soft skill subjective side, things that held me back, things that if I could do differently, maybe I would, but it's also all part of the journey.
So Candice, there is a question from an audience member, Grady Newman. Grady asked, frequent code switching must be exhausting. How can we advocate and help to limit the need for you and others to be code switching, especially in multifamily?
You are right. It is exhausting. Actually, it's so exhausting that some days I come home and my family can't even fathom how tired I am because in their mind, all I did was train or be in meetings. A couple things. I think we advocate by integrating different cultures into what is acceptable, if that makes sense. And you're watching it happen slowly. I think we also advocate by still bringing a little bit of our personal flavor from our communities to what we do. Meaning, when you come to a Candace Manning class, yes, I'm going to be polished. Yes, I'm absolutely going to be a professional, right? But I am also going to, let me give you an example. I was trained in a class, a leasing class recently. And so we were talking about like how your goal is to make somebody remember you. And so I was all polished and professional. And then I busted out and was like, you're going to remember me, which is a song from, why is it slipping my mind? Meek Mill's. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to go around singing Meek Mill songs, but the whole class laughed because they related. They know that song and they knew it was okay and let them know I was human. Like, oh, wow, she listens to that kind of music too. She's just not this fake person standing up there. So I think small steps, being authentic, but still being professional. I also think that there's more times we need to speak up in rooms. And I've learned to be able to do that because what happens is as long as we can articulate our ideas in the appropriate platforms, they can be heard, if that makes sense. So that is what I do personally to contribute, because it is really a challenge and it is exhausting. And sometimes you just want to be you. And I get that, but kind of knowing when to do that so that we can end up being a culprit for overall change and really championing inclusivity, because we don't all have to talk or present the same way to be accepted in corporate America. It is shifting. That's an excellent question, by the way. Hi, Grady.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. I think we know how to be professional. Like, you don't have to be cussing or anything like that. But I think every once in a while, it's okay to use a little slang, and it just kind of changes, I think, the mood, like you said, where, people can relate to you and it's like, okay, she's not this stuffy person.
Knowing when to do it. And also the other part, though, like we touched on, is taking the opportunities when you are finally in a position to champion change, meaning if I'm in a room with all the right people, a board or a company, the presidents, and someone actually asks you, what can we do to be more inclusive? I'm not the person that's going to lie and say, it's great and we're already there. We got to capture those opportunities when they arise and be clear about it, as long as we can articulate it appropriately.
Candace, I'd like to ask you about one of your projects. I'm going to dare to say it's your legacy project, right? For one of them. And this is the Leasing Academy that you started. I want for you to share with us the story and how this started and came to life and became what it is today. How, you went from being in property management on the operations side to actually create this from scratch, everything. I'd love for you to share that story with us.
Yes, no, it's a good story because believe it or not, people are always asking me these days, how can I get into training? Because multifamily, one of our challenges is we career path people. And if you can imagine, I probably was never born to be a property manager anyway. I realized in about 2017 that I was about 2017, 2018, that I was passionate about people and I really wanted to start training. And the company that I was with at the time didn't really have a space for me to be able to train. I kind of reached out and, I was a pretty good property manager and was more encouraged to stay on that end. And so what I did was I went to the association and was like, I want to teach. I was already involved. And surprisingly, they were like, please teach. And so I remember creating my first class, really knowing nothing, using Google, using things I had seen over the last 15 years or so. And so I started teaching for the association once to twice a year for free. Okay, I think that's important because I do get this question a lot. But in fact, I didn't know the association would pay for my print materials. So I used to go pay myself to print out my materials and teach classes for free because I wanted to do it so bad. So even when I was a property manager, and I ended up moving on to another company. When I took that job, I said, are you still okay with me training for the association? Absolutely. And so I continued to train for the association and also be involved with and I didn't think, this is so important, I didn't worry about the money. It wasn't about me making money. It was about me doing what I love. And I always believed and still believe that when you do what you love, money will start to chase you. And so I continued to train while I was working, while I was a property manager. I cannot lie. There were countless nights where I was up late because I still had a full-time job. And probably about 3 years ago, I was at an education committee meeting, and the person who worked at the association said, they're talking about this Leasing Training Academy, and I don't know if it's going to happen. And so I was honest, like, hey, if that's ever a thing, I want that job. And so then I went to my boss now and told him, if this ever really happens, I want that job. There were a lot of moving pieces because of funding, et cetera. And so then randomly I get a call. I'll never forget. I'm in Virginia. And my boss now, who was my mentor then and still is, called me and was like, look, I think we're going to be able to pull this off. Are you on board? How much do you need? And, just like that, about 6 to 8 months later, I was officially offered a position. However, Adrian, this is the good part that you were kind of asking about. Because nothing like this had been done before, ahead of time, before I accepted the position, he asked me to write a scope. He asked me to write a scope of everything that this training should entail. And so I had the chance in January of 2021 to kind of sit down and write everything that I thought was missing. And I looked at all the learning gaps I saw over the years from leasing people who were successful. And so when I was hired on, I used that as an outline and essentially took about 4 months to write 28 different classes, touching on everything that you would expect, like your phone and fair housing and tour, to more intricate things that I think were lacking, to aura training, social media training, soft skills training. And I really used I don't want to say expertise, but my experience as a hiring manager to think, what would I be looking for if I'm hiring someone who knew nothing? So what it looked like was me, some days just writing all day. Other days I would block out and could not capture my thoughts as well as I wanted to. And I may just walk a couple miles until the curriculum came to me. And at the same time, launch a recruitment campaign and grassroots marketing. So I was just calling people, hey, I'm a Baltimore girl. I'm going to be in Prince George's County. Who should I know? And so, I use my existing relationships, to be able to meet more people, to draw attention to the program. And just like that, it kind of happened. So I always tell the classes, the Leasing Training Academy was really a labor of love. And I mean that because I wrote every single piece that is facilitated there from my heart. And in fact, I must say, in all fairness, as a property manager, I was in a position where I was happy. I was well paid. I felt like the organization I worked for actually respected and valued me and treated me well. It just wasn't my passion. So I took all the passion I had and put it into what I knew I could be good at. I just needed somebody to give me a chance to be a trainer. And now I'm kind of like a real trainer.
And also, speaking of trainer, Gerard Nueva is also part of the audience. And I know you know Gerard from
Love Gerard.
Together. And he says, good job, Ms. Candice. Would you have any online courses available next year on physical asset and maintenance for property managers?
Very good. Actually, it's so funny that you say that, Gerard. So I had a meeting to revamp our maintenance for managers class. So yes, we will have a maintenance for managers class available through the Maryland Multi-Housing Association as of 2024, and it will be 100% revamped. And although we are actually looking into like on-demand classes, we do offer private offerings. So it is something that we could adapt to a virtual setting if you were interested in hosting it for your team. So absolutely, or for the managers within your organization. So yes, maintenance for managers is important, But I'm so glad. First off, I just have to say hi, Gerard. Gerard, shout out to Gerard as the best salesperson I ever met outside of myself. I have to say that he can sell anything. But it is so that physical asset piece is a real gap. People become property managers, but don't understand that until you understand the assets, you really can't get the results that you're looking for. So your short answer, sorry, I went on a tangent, is yes, we will have an online version through private offerings that you can. It's going to be called Maintenance for Managers. It's going to focus a lot on processes, but also touching on the importance of physical asset, how to get to know your physical asset, and best practices for property managers to really get acclimated.
Candace, I want to stay on a Leasing Academy program, right? And please walk us through what type of, I guess, segment of population you're targeting, right? Who are your demographics when it comes to how do you get students into class? Is there any, I'm sure that there's criteria, there's certain, rules that, you qualify. So walk us through the entire process. Like, how do you reach out? Who are those individuals? And then what's happening once they get, vetted? How do you vet them? And what's happening? What should they expect once they get vetted? And what do they learn? What do they get exposed to during the program? I know there's a lot of questions you want. So take your time. That's a bunch of questions.
No, I love triple barrel questions. So that works for me. So what does that look like? Well, from a recruitment standpoint, right, it is the program is open to all Prince George's County residents. So in regards to recruitment, we do a lot of organic grassroots marketing through relationships. In fact, my top source for last league was previous referrals. So as the program grows, we actually have a whole band of ambassadors, LTA grads who are now ambassadors, but we also do some paid social media marketing. We've been able to use our placement partners to help with advertising, meaning the employers who have agreed to consider our students will actually e-blast their residents and say, hey, this is a great thing. Are you looking to enter property management? Those efforts thus far have gotten us a great demographic, primarily minority women. Now, since start, we've had 5 men come through the program, and I'll be very honest, I really want to be able to diversify our demographic as well, because as much as I love Black women, hi, Black women here, and do well with relating to that population, we don't want this to look like this is just a program for Black women. This is for everyone. In fact, one of my specific targets that we're going to be targeting in 2024 due to employer demand is we need Spanish-speaking people. I need my Latina and Latino brothers and sisters to be introduced to property management as well. What happens, that's recruitment, but then once somebody's interested, they go on our website and they apply. Once we receive their application, they go through about a 10 to 15 minute Zoom interview with our workforce associate, Christina Marcello, who is knocking it out of the park. She is amazing. And we're asking them a bunch of questions, A, to see if they're a good fit for customer service. But the biggest thing, and she does this very well, she actually scares the people. And I tell her, like, I'm not scary, stop scaring the people, is that she really stresses to them that the LTA is not just training. How do you handle feedback? Like, Candice is going to give this to you raw. She's going to tell you everything that an employer is thinking, but won't dare say out of their mouth so you can get a job. How are you going to handle that? What is your commitment to class? Because if you're late 3 times, you can get out of our program. So the vetting process is 2 parts. They do a criminal background check, right? Because we want to make sure that they're employable. But really, that interview is our opportunity to feel the student, to feel how dedicated, to feel how serious they are about this, and also to see if they have what it takes to work in service, because it can be a bit daunting. After, let's say you complete the interview, we want to move forward. We then complete the background check, and then we work with Employ Prince George's to finish their enrollment process. Their enrollment process basically provides the student with scholarships to cover the cost of the program. So the program is 100% free for students, but the retail on the program is $4,920. So Employ Prince George's pays that for each student once they have completed enrollment, and then they get to come to Leasing Land with me. And what does that look like? Day one, of course, I'm just kind of introducing myself, going over classroom rules, going over our policies. I am a stickler for a few things. If you come to the LTA on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you are expected to adhere to what I believe to be the strictest dress code in the industry or in the state. We are very strict on attendance, on lates, because we're not just looking to train you. I need to make sure that when I get you a job, you can perform the basics at that job. So we spend the first, our students test every Friday on what they've learned throughout the week. Every Friday, I meet with every single student one-on-one and give them feedback. And sometimes the feedback is great, you're ready. Sometimes the feedback may look like, okay, we really need to work on your polish and professionalism. You talk with your hands. Let's find a resting place. I love your natural hair. Let's work to go ahead and get a retwist here so no one has a reason to count you out. So a lot of times the feedback that I'm giving is on the soft skill portion. So they'll test, they'll meet with me, and then every Sunday I sit there and I do reports for each student. And those reports are called SOG reports, which highlight your strengths, opportunities, and growth. And I'm going to say where the student is great, where I think they need the opportunities lie, and how they've grown so far in the program. Those reports are then distributed to our placement partners, who are the employers who have agreed to look at our students for, when they have job openings. That has worked well because they're getting a realistic picture. Hey, Amy is great, but Amy's been late 2 times, a little bit concerned. She has a lot going on, maybe a good fit, but hoping to see improvement. Or Angel is a rock star. She has concierge experience and would be a great fit for an A-level community. So you go through that for 4 weeks with me, and I must tell you, it's intense. We also bring in all kinds of people from the industry, industry professionals. Shout out to Neyda. She teaches our hiring class, but we don't want the students to just hear from me. We want to introduce them to property management. And then the tough part is we work with these employers to actually get them jobs. It's much more than a class. Some of my students have said to me, Miss Candace, this is charm school. I don't think it's charm school, but I'm definitely trying to hit on some of the soft stuff because my population is often minority women and I am a minority woman. I don't want people to have to wait years to learn things I had to wait to know. There are some unwritten rules that, of course, we don't like to talk about, but that disqualify people from getting hired, that disqualified you from getting promoted. And some people leave in interviews and they never know why they didn't get a job. And I want to be able to tell you up front what's stopping you.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And we have also a question from another audience member. I'm loving all the questions today, guys. You guys are just really so engaged today. I love it. So Kenneth Fish said, thank you for this, Candice. What organizations or partnerships do you have to get the minority talent?
Hi, Kenneth. Right now, we are using a lot of grassroots marketing. In the Prince George's County area, Employ Prince George's has been really instrumental in regards of helping to get minority talent. But if I'm 100% honest with you, after spending a month with me, I have been very lucky and I'm very grateful that our grads have bought into this program. And when I tell you they are walking ads, I don't even know how it happens, but I had a student who went to her first industry event and she's texting me like, I'm here and I'm excited because after the program, I continue to mentor. And that's what makes this fulfilling. And she's at her first industry event and she's like, I'm meeting this person, that person. I told them about the LTA. I told them about the LTA. So slowly but surely, we're hitting more minorities because that's who our demographic is. And as they go tell their churches, for example, one of my students just sent me something to be interviewed by a local magazine because of a relationship he had. It is clearly targets minorities, but it's still professional. I'm taking that interview to expose the LTA. So I think the best answer to this question is I'm targeting minority population just because that's what my population already is. And I like to create brand ambassadors if I can. And they go out and tell a friend to tell a friend.
Candace, I know that you started another program besides the Leasing Academy, and this is the Service Training Academy. Tell us about the Service Training Academy. How did it start? What is it about? Kind of like, the same process as you explained, the Leasing Academy.
Sorry, there's a delay. I did not mean to cut you off, Adrian. So I do have to correct this, not correct it, but I wish I started the Service Training Academy. I did not. However, when I joined the association, I was asked to basically oversee all education. So I technically do lead all the efforts, including the Service Training Academy. So the Service Training Academy actually started in 2016. And again, my boss, mentor, Adam Skolnick, it was his vision because we all know that we've been struggling for maintenance talent and it's only getting worse. So it started in 2016 and, me being very transparent, initially there was a lot of buzz around it. By the time that I get there in 2022, the program was no longer putting up the numbers that we needed to keep the door open. So, as I'm writing the LTA and I kind of get tasked with, okay, Candice, fix education. We see what's going on. Our training program is no longer thriving. And so, what we were able to do is double class size over the last 12 months, working to build new relationships, just to really kind of revitalize the program because the program is amazing. But it's been around for a while and everything needs constant attention. So what is the Service Training Academy? So now that we know kind of my role in it, I work closely with our Service Training Academy director. His name is Dennis Allen. And essentially it is a 2-month program designed to introduce people to maintenance careers in property management. I must say that the instructor is amazing. And it's so funny. Networking life is just so small because Dennis Allen is also the first service manager that I ever worked with when I was a leasing professional. So we would have never thought that, 15 years later, we'd be working at the same place again. Over these 60 days, students are then introduced to every basic component of maintenance, right? Plumbing, electric, drywall, HVAC. They also do receive their CFC, and they also apartment turnovers. They spend time on a community. And throughout the 6 weeks, Dennis is working with them on a one-on-one basis to be able to really hone in on their skills. And kind of like the LTA, over the last year, we've adopted a lot of the practices of the LTA process-wise. He's meeting with the students every week, sending out evaluations so that we can work towards getting them jobs. So if people are interested in the Service Training Academy, the process is a little bit different. They would apply online and one of our team members would contact them. And then we would physically bring them in for an orientation because we actually have a full facility that has been designed and created to teach maintenance. So there's toilets in there, there's sinks in there, there's a fake kitchen in there or a real kitchen, you know what I mean? So that they can get the real life experience of what it's like to work in an apartment home. So the Service Training Academy to me is a great option for someone who wants to work with their hands because we know that college and school is not for everyone, right? But we have a large need for jobs. So, for maintenance people in our industry. And so this is a great way to introduce people to maintenance and make sure that they have the skills needed to do so. Now, our members pretty much are able to then come in, interview our students, and if they want to hire them, then what we do is a 30-day apprenticeship period where the student will work for you paid for 30 days. And after 30 days, you have the right to say, oh, he was great, let's hire him or not. And if not, then you had no obligation. You lost anything. If you do want to hire them for the Service Training Academy, because we do not have the funding that we have through EPG, there's a small fee or a small buyout fee if you decide to hire a student permanently.
Yeah, shout out to Employ PG and that's just amazing to be able to fund and be able to provide the opportunities for new talent to learn a new skill. I wish I had something like that. I've been blessed with my career to be able to learn and grow within, but I just think that, having something like that to really help you, to train you and to just really help set you up for success, I think that that's awesome. That's amazing to to have.
Well, thank you. We're excited.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, What advice do you have for individuals that are looking to build a successful career in multifamily property management?
Be patient. Be patient and challenge yourself to bring your best you to work every day. And when I say that, what I mean is we all wear a lot of hats, right? We're mothers, we're wives, we're sisters, we're brothers. There's always going to be some kind of personal crisis. And while those things are important and very important, and in a lot of instances, they may be important at work, being patient and committing to being your best every day means that when you go to work, you learn to compartmentalize some of the other stuff that you have going on. Because if I'm being candid, it's a harsh world and nobody cares. It doesn't matter how stellar you are at your job. If you had to go out for 6 months tomorrow, they will replace you. Business is business. If you can learn to be patient, but also make sure that you can kind of do a self-check, right? And not just be mad because I didn't get promoted, but kind of figure out what else do I need to do to be promoted, you'll find a sense of happy in what you're doing. Often we're always in a mode of striving and never arriving, if that makes sense. I know I was for a year, like, why not? Why not? I've done this. I performed here. I did this. I did this. But once I could actually just sit and be still and just do my best every day, again, I stopped chasing things and now opportunities chase me. And I say that again humbly, but it's true. Like, we get in our own way. So if you can go in and do your best every day, even on hard days, it always pays off. Learn, keep growing, take advantage of education. That's another thing. Don't just think about the value of the company. Think about your own value. Invest in yourself. If you learn something, you won, because knowledge is the one thing no one can take away from you, no matter what happens, right? Forget the money, chase the knowledge, and don't limit yourself. It was never my setback, but I watched people get set back because of this. Everything is your job. When you hear people say, it's not my job, that's not my job, wrong mentality. If you want to grow in your career, challenge yourself to learn as much as you can about everybody's job. Not because you want to take it, because it increases your value.
Candace, a follow-up question here on both programs. How many graduates you have a year from each program, from the Leasing Academy and from the Maintenance Training Academy?
So year one of the Leasing Training Academy, I am excited to say 48. We run that program 4 times a year, and initially started with class sizes of 10. We doubled our last cohort again in less than a year. So we've technically had 48 people go through that program in year one, excluding the last class because we just graduated last week and we're still placing. We've had an average of an 80% placement rate, which is good. The STA, our goal would be about 48, 12 per class. We do it 4 times a year as well. This year, we're more around the 36 number, but last year we were at the 16 number. So we're trending in the right direction. So 16 to 36, I'll take it. The LTA is off to a pretty strong start, so I got to keep it up now. But I believe that we can do that.
How do we scale? How do we get to 360 to add a 0 to it?
Well, the good news is I just made an offer to another instructor because that's a big part of it. Finding more people who are passionate about people to spread word. The other thing is kind of to continue making sure, and I talk to my boss about this all the time, as we scale, I am not willing to sacrifice quality, meaning I am not looking for someone to just come in and facilitate. We need to make sure that not only the curriculum remains to standard, but that whole coachable experience and relationship building with the placement partners takes place, and then we can continue to grow. So how do we scale? Well, we got Baltimore County now giving us some money to get this thing going. If we can do a great job in Baltimore County, let's knock on Montgomery County's door because we've already had conversations with them. So this sounds, again, kind of back to what I was saying, but I'm a firm believer that if we do the good work and don't compromise the standard, even when it gets hard, it's going to come to us because we're doing something positive, not just that benefits the individual, but that benefits our industry. And I do want to use this as a plea for my industry professionals. For my hiring managers out there that say, I need someone with experience, consider this. Someone with leasing experience also has leasing bad habits. Someone who comes in with a month of training has a solid foundation to be molded and coached into exactly what you need for your community. We've got to give people a chance, because all I hear is how many openings we have. But I have some people who are like, oh, I need someone that has experience. I get it. But these aren't lease ups I'm talking about. Somebody gave us a chance. So please be open to new people. New people are not a bad thing.
That's my language right there in recruiting. It's like, for certain roles, especially I think leasing, you can totally help someone that's, willing to learn and grow. And sometimes you'll find those are your best hires. Of course, if you're a property manager or, more of a seniors level position, then of course you need someone with experience, right? But if you can train for that position, do it, because you'll be glad you did in the end. It'll be worth it. So Candace, now just looking ahead, you were a fortune teller. If you could see the future, what do you see as the most exciting opportunities or challenges on the horizon for professionals in the multifamily industry?
I see a lot of challenges because of the shift in society. And when I say that, meaning a lot of the shift that we're going through right now post-pandemic is a shift away from people. So did anybody else notice that when you go to Target or Walmart, you barely can get a person to help you? You have to actually self-check out, which personally annoys me because I'm paying for your product. Now I'm paying you for my bag. Now I'm paying you to check myself out. And do you know, like a week ago at Walmart, there was a greeter there that asked my mother after she checked herself out, how was your experience? And my mom said, well, I did a heck of a job. I just checked myself out, right? So I use that because what happens is as society shifts more towards possibly centralization, we're not selling products like shoes. Your home is still intimate. So one of the challenges is going to be finding people that still know how to work with people. As a trainer, the biggest concerns I can hear on a constant basis are about service, because customer service is dying. And I really believe that if we don't continue to hone in on those soft skills, on the basics, the sad thing is this is all basic, we're going to turn into the Target and the Walmart, and certain customer bases need more. So this isn't a challenge that we think about like tech and evolution. This is a challenge that people are no longer equipped or want to work with people. And we work in an industry that ultimately serves people. So I see that to be a challenge: hiring, keeping people, putting service in the forefront, the death of customer service. It's actually really saddening to watch, and it makes me sound old, and I'm actually not that old. I think that's going to be a large challenge. I think that AI is going to be a gift and a curse for our industry. But I also think that there are going to be some effects of AI down the road that are not necessarily positive, if that makes sense. And we could have a whole show about that, because it may even change the quality of candidates that you need, because now you don't need people who can write effective follow-up, they can just chat GPT that, right? So I think those are going to be some of the large ones. Oh, I guess the biggest one, which kind of falls into the first one, is that what we do is not the most attractive jobs for the cohorts that are now entering the workforce. Meaning, why would I want to be on call 365 days a year as a property manager? Why do I want to work weekends? We're open 7 days a week. I only get 6 paid holidays off when other companies offer me 12 to 14. The lack of flexibility because of the kind of operation we have, we're going to have to be very strategic and intentional about making sure multifamily looks attractive, because there are many cohorts now in the workplace and they don't all have the same desires at all. So I think those three things are going to be your challenges: the service, AI eventually, get back with me in a couple of years, because I know I sound crazy. It's a good thing, but I think it's going to have some adverse effects. And then making sure we find people that want to do this. And that's why programs like LTA and STA are so important, because this is not the most attractive career.
Candace, it's been such a blast to have you on today. We already did an episode, you and I did, and you did an episode with Neyda as well. What are some parting thoughts for our audience?
Challenge yourself to use failure, right, as a driver for success. If you see something and everyone else thinks you're crazy, do it anyway. Then they look crazy, and that's always fun. But limits only exist in your mind, so there's nothing that you can't do. Remember that. That's my biggest thing. Like, no one would have thought 5 years ago I'd be teaching a leasing training academy. What's that, right? It's here now. So don't be your own worst enemy. Believe that anything is possible, and it will be. And I sound like some motivational self-help person right now as I say this out loud, but these are the kind of thought processes that successful people have.
Where can people find you, Candace? Where can, anyone in the audience or anyone that's going to watch like the recording of the conversation find you if they want to reach out to you?
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me through the Maryland Multi-Housing Association's website as well. I also have, I like to believe that I create magic. So outside of my association work, my email is multifamilymagic, because that's what I aim to create, multifamilymagic@gmail.com. If you're interested in me coming out, I do actually, aside from training, I'm a content creator. I'm also a public speaker. I just hosted my first empowerment session, so I do strategic planning. And so, if interested, reach out. But, I'm also a big person that believes in the power of networking. So reach out anyway. The more we grow, our networks, you never know. There's always something in common. I've met people and it's like, what are we doing with them? And it's like, I don't know yet, but something's there. So I'm Candace Manning. I'm on LinkedIn, multifamilymagic@gmail.com. And those are probably the best ways to reach me.
And if you haven't met Candice, I would definitely say connect with her, chat with her. She's awesome, as you can tell.
Thank you, Neyda. Neyda's awesome too, and Adrian. I must say they're two of my faves. So I was really, really excited about today. Just because I knew I wasn't gonna feel nervous. It doesn't feel like, it just feels like we're talking, hanging out.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, Candace. I want to thank everybody in the audience for also hanging out with us today. And I do want to thank our sponsors and friends from Apartment Snapshot. They're making this broadcast possible. Thank you very much for your partnership. We hope to see you all back here after the New Year's. This was the last hangout for the year. So, Neyda, I want to pass this on to you so you could announce our next guest. That's going to be on January 4th, all on a Thursday, 3 p.m. Same day of the week, same time of the week.
Yes. We are going to meet Dr. Nabil. He is actually a psychologist, and he actually works, believe it or not, with people from multifamily. You guys are stressed out a lot. There's a lot that happens, especially on site. And so Dr. Nabil is going to talk to us about relieving those stress and, why you want to seek help, especially professional help. So we'll definitely be talking to him and learning a lot. I think it's going to be a great conversation. It's going to be beneficial. He also can work with individuals or companies. So if you're a company and organization and you would like to have him come out and speak to your employees, your team members, he would love to do so. Or if you need a one-on-one basis, he could do that too. So tune in with us on Thursday, January 4th at 3 p.m. here at the Hangout.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. See you next year. Happy New Year.